Example of, how quickly our country can get divided. Nashville is a pretty blue area right here within the city, but you drive 10 miles and you can find incredibly differing viewpoints and opinions from far more conservative folks in Tennessee. And it makes me sort of think and wonder, and we'll start with you, Tomi. Do you think that Republicans and Democrats see each other as fellow Americans anymore, or do you think that we've become tribal to a point that we don't even feel like we're the same country, even though we're so close?
Obviously, because of the 2016 election, we've seen the battle lines being drawn, but I think a lot of Trump supporters feel as though we've been cast out and alienated. So that's part of the problem. I don't think anybody wants division in this country, but I think for those Trump supporters out there, those conservatives out there, we've kind of been pushed to the wayside. You're a racist, you're a bigot, you're intolerant. Once we've been name called to that extent and we've had our characters assassinated to such an extent, it's hard to repair that once you've called somebody such horrible names, once you've called people white nationalists and racist just because they support this president. Naturally, we're going to be a little bit more defensive.
Do you think, Ana, Ana, I'll just let you respond to that. It's the same question to you.
Yeah, so I think that it's important to kind of understand some of the dynamics that influence the agendas of politicians, Donald Trump's being one of them. So it's an age-old trick for politicians to divide and conquer. And if you go back to the campaigning that Trump did and the type of rhetoric he used and the rhetoric he relied on to garner support, it was to divide people. It was to find the boogeymen, to find foreigners that are so scary and we all need to, worry about them. The immigrants are the reason why your economic situation isn't so great. The people of color are the ones who threaten your lives with the crime. That was rhetoric that was specifically meant to divide Americans, and it worked, unfortunately. And the thing is, I think it's important for people to really take responsibility for the rhetoric that they use in the various political debates that they engage in. So while I don't believe that every single Trump supporter is a racist or a bigot, you got to understand that when you have the president referring to people who take part in a white nationalist march as very fine people, well, he's basically making excuses for individuals who are literally chanting things like, the Jews will not replace us. They ran over a counter-protester, Heather Heyer, effectively killing her. And so when you have Trump supporters lining up to defend Trump's rhetoric in cases like that, well, then you have to understand why people would draw these types of conclusions about Trump supporters.
It's bothersome.
So let me just go on there first and foremost. To Tommy's point is that, politicians, have age-old trick, divide and conquer. Were you making the same claims, Ana, when Obama was president? And, you didn't build that. And what he was basically doing in terms of dividing the country along racial lines, blacks versus whites, and the rhetoric that was coming out of Obama at that time? Did you mention any of that thing? Did you mention the racism and the bigotry that was occurring at that point? No, I don't think you did. I never heard of it. I never heard anybody on the progressive side or anybody in the media. You guys were prostrating and genuflecting and bending over backwards and forwards, no Vaseline being used to get it up the shaft, from Barack Obama and his acolytes. And the same thing happens with so many others on the left. Black Lives Matter. They're not racist. They're not bigots. They're really? They're not? And then you have the audacity to say that this president and the conservatives and Republicans are racist and bigots. The age-old trick is coming from your playbook, because all you do is, if you can't defend the position, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're this phobe, you're that phobe, you're against everybody. If you look at the transcripts and you want to be true to yourself, what President Trump said at that thing in Charlottesville was what? There were people, and there are nice and fine people on both sides, but he wasn't talking about the ones that were marching to Nazi flags and doing the white power salute. He was talking about those people that were there to defend the statues and defend the history of this country. That's what they were doing there.
To me, though, that Democrats, It's bothersome to me that Democrats do not call out Antifa, that they do not call out the numerous cases of conservatives being attacked. And Anna, you and I have kind of developed an unlikely camaraderie, friendship, whatever you want to call it, over the last couple of months. But when we're talking about rhetoric, let's be fair. You coined me white power Barbie a couple of years ago. Had never met me. So that's what a lot of conservatives go through, is that you never met us, you never talked to us.
Now, I will say something in Anna's case. Listen, we all say things, and listen, if you can't, I understand white power Barbie, okay, it has its connotation, it has its underlying meaning. But listen, if you're going to enter into the arena of politics, if you're going to enter the arena of social media, if you're going to enter the arena of being a pundit on social media, political or anything else, you got to be able to take the stuff that comes at you, the name calling, the rhetoric, whatever the narrative that they try to form around you. Because look, they're doing what they have to do. They're doing their job, and same way here, we use hyperbole. A lot of times I talk about all the time that I place a lot of these people in the category what I call my acronym simmer, because they just simmer and they just stew in being so upset and so mad and they're never happy. They just simmer in it all the time. Democrats, progressives, moderates, the Hollywood hypocrites, the alphabet networks, they just simmer. SIMR stands for stupid, idiotic, moronic, and retarded. Okay, hyperbole. But sometimes we need something like that to get our point across. If I just say, you know what, they're just some, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, fine. But you've got to add some oomph to it. So yes, she called her white power Barbie. Okay, all right. But you got to learn to take some of this stuff. And, both sides. So I think there is something to be said for, name. But if you can back your argument up with, examples and with what you're saying, and then you throw some of these modifiers in every once in a while to really make your point and get your point across, I'm perfectly fine with that.
As you look at our viewpoints, and all of a sudden you can say, I don't agree with her politics. You can say, I don't agree with what she says. I don't like the facts that she uses. I don't like her support for this president. But when you blanketly just call somebody a white power Barbie or a white nationalist because you disagree with their politics, that's going too far. That's rhetoric that's also dangerous.
So I think that's a fair point, but I also think that it's important to understand what motivates that type of rhetoric, right? So look, when you are on television and you're saying things about how it's important for us to have as much access to guns as possible so we can defend ourselves against migrants at the border, that's effectively messaging to people, we should shoot migrants as they're coming to the border to seek asylum.
That's just so stupid. And just again, I have to say just what I said. There's a simmer going on again. The simmer is going on again. Stupid, idiotic, moronic, retarded. Just because you said that we need guns to defend ourselves means that's going out to say, you know what, start shooting people? I mean, what the hell? See, this is the problem, folks. This is the problem. This is what causes us to use the hyperbole that we use.
That's actually taking that out of context.
The language, look, and I think you have to understand, and you have walked back your commentary. I give you credit for that, because there are people on the right who will say things that incite violence. They will slander and
And the left never does. The Democrats never do. The progressives never do. The moderates never do. The alphabet networks, they never do. The hypocrites in Hollywood, they never do. They never say anything bad. They never have any bad rhetoric that will cause harm and damage to people. Are you freaking kidding me?
Fame, disenfranchised groups of people. And when they do incite violence, and you do have shootings like the one that just happened in El Paso, Texas, that was motivated by an anti-immigrant, agenda, well, they won't take responsibility. I do give you credit because you have walked back your comments, but I don't go around calling every Republican white power Barbie. I don't think that every Republican is a bad person, but I do think that as public figures, as people who have individuals who see us as an inspiration, we have an obligation to make sure that our language is careful, it's measured, and I've messed up. I want to take responsibility for the times that I've messed up, but I just think that you mischaracterize groups of people in a way that's unacceptable, and it directs more violence and more hatred toward them. You get more upset about unarmed black people getting shot and killed by cops than you do about the actual victims. You know, like, you support the cops. But why not support
You're damn right I
12-year-olds
support
like
cops.
Tamir Rice?
I will always
who are
support our law
just
enforcement
simply
officers.
playing with a toy gun.
I've given you a
at
very
park.
long time to talk. I've given you a very long time to talk. A couple of things that you said that I want to clear up. When I said I walk back my comments that were made, I never said we need guns so that we can defend ourselves against migrants coming across the border. I said we need guns because if you're refusing to protect and defend this nation with our borders, we as the American people have to have a means to protect ourselves because the government is not going to do it for us. And yes, I believe
That's
the Second Amendment.
vigilante justice. That's vigilante justice. That is
That's not
outlawed.
vigilante justice.
Can we-
That's the
let's-
Second Amendment.
Let's
That's the
talk a
Second
little bit.
Amendment.
Let's
It
talk
is
a little bit
not
about
your Second
immigration.
Amendment right.
Let's talk about that immigration thing, though. I mean, I don't want to. We'll get to Second Amendment. Trust me. But I want to talk about that because you have mentioned that you.
So, anyways, in this part here, the initial stages of this debate, I think they both got their point across, but you can actually see, and I know, Tommy said that, backstage and before, that they sort of, were getting along and everything. And I think that's fine. But once you get on stage, you can see where the lines are drawn in terms of where each person stands. I think they both got their points across. I don't think anybody scored any major points of any kind. Tommy characterized, her positions. Anna basically is sort of trying to attack Tommy on basically, again, this is what they try to do, frame the perspective, frame the narrative, frame the debate around, white, elite, racist, bigot, this is what you've said before in your commentary and stuff like that. So I think in this regard here, pretty much even so far in the beginning stage of this debate. We appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir. Haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit that like, share button, hit that notification bell, check out our other videos as well, and I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.